Hey everybody, this is Tao at the Forge, and I have been ridiculously sick. Yeah, I'm sorry I haven't been able to get a video out last week, but yeah, it was just crazy. I'm not even sure what it was. I think it was a combination of exhaustion and a few other things. This crazy thing is I was on vacation last week, and that's when I got sick. So anyways, I wanted to cover Dominaria spoilers. I did a video earlier on, and then I haven't been able to look at anything because I've just been wrecked. I'm still a little bit sick today, but anyways, let's go over the rest of it. The rest of the ones that are spoiled today, or so far, and we'll see I'll let you know what I think of them. Just a disclaimer, I haven't looked at these first, so I don't have any notes or anything about it. I'm just going to read them, and we'll just go through them together and see what you think, all right? Or see what I think about them, I guess, and let me know in the comments if you disagree, right? So one thing I noticed about Dominaria is they've got a ton of legendary creatures and sorceries and stuff like that, and that it sounds cool. This is going to be like huge for Commander because they're probably introducing like 50 new commanders or something like that. But one of the things is they tried this in Kamigawa block, right? And it generally didn't. It's like Wizards of the Coast doesn't regard this as being a success when they did it in Kamigawa. So I'm hoping that they kind of learn from their mistakes, whatever they were in Kamigawa, and fix them here so that they'll be actually pretty good. So, and you can see some, I'll talk about some of these, like, well, I only read the first one, and the first one already shows like why legendary is pretty important, but so I've only read this first one. I noticed Sarah Angel, the rest I haven't read, so let's go through them. So anyways, the first one, Shalai, Voice of Plenty, new in the last 24 hours. Okay, so it's 4 mana, 3 and a white for a 3/4 flyer. You planeswalkers you control and other creatures you control have hexproof. That is a bomb, right? So like if you get to draft this, you pretty much, that's like almost a must play, right? Like you planeswalkers you control and other creatures you control have hexproof, and then 4 and 2 green, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Oh, like I'm surprised that they didn't give him like indestructible too. Like, you know, if your opponent, if you don't have any targeted removal for this thing, like this is going to be really, really tough. And this is why I talked about legendary just a moment ago, is that without legendary, you could have 2 of these and then they'd give each other hexproof, and then you wouldn't be able to get rid of them, right? Still, this is like this is I think a very strong card, and the 4 mana slot is definitely playable in draft, right? And even in modern. So you never know, like this could be, you know, it's clearly a Selesnya colored card, so you know, I think it could be I think it's really good. It looks really strong, frighteningly strong. All right, so Yawgmoth's Vile Offering, 4 and a black for a legendary sorcery. Put up to 1 target creature or planeswalker card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control from any graveyard. Wow. Destroy up to 1 target creature or planeswalker. Exile Yawgmoth's Vile Offering. Well, at least it's not instant speed. Yeah, 1 target creature, so you get to put a creature from a graveyard in, destroy a target creature or planeswalker, and then exile the offering. Okay, sure. So you just can't cast it again. That's actually okay. I mean, at 5 mana, you get to put any creature back. It's okay. I mean, you know, and you have to, and it's legendary too, so it's a bit narrow, but I think it's a decent card. Sarah Angel is a classic, a 5 mana 4/4 with flying and vigilance. You know, that's definitely draftable. Certainly a decent card. Okay, Naban, Dean of Iteration. So 2 mana for a 2/1 legendary wizard. If a wizard entering the battlefield under your control causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. So basically he's a Panharmonicon, right? So under your control causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger. Wow. So this is like basically a 2 mana Panharmonicon. You know, and easier to remove because it's a creature, but oh man, that could be just brutal. So I could see this card, like people just specifically building around this card. All right, let's keep moving on. Like I think, man, these are some really great cards. Jaya's Immolating Inferno. Okay, is a X red for a legendary sorcery, deals X damage to each of up to 3 targets. Wow. Okay, again, pretty strong, especially as a finisher. The only problem is it's a sorcery, but to deal X damage to 3 different targets is pretty good. Like the thing is, in early game, you can use this to sweep away like tokens and little guys like Naban, Dean of Iteration, right? Or you can late game you could use this to finish. This might be really good in Commander or multiplayer as well, because we're in situations where you have a ton of mana and then you can use it to just wreck the board or wreck other people. So anyways, Tashar, Ancestor's Apostle, 3 and a white for a 2/2 bird cleric legendary. Flying, whenever you cast a historic spell, return target creature card with converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So kind of like a version of Sun Titan. Okay. Man, some of these cards are just ridiculously powerful. So whenever you cast a historic spell, so artifacts, legendaries, and sagas are historic. So that's, in this set, it's very good, and you'd have to build around it. But in other sets, I don't know if this would necessarily be that good. Like, I'm not sure if this would be that good in Modern. It'd have to be a build-around card, but still, it's not bad. All right, Tatyova Benthic Druid. This card is gorgeous, right? I mean, I don't really care for the merfolk art there, but like the frame actually looks pretty sweet. Let's see, 3 a green and a blue for a 3/3. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life and draw a card. Well, okay, there you go. Like, the only problem is in the 5 mana slot. That's a little slow for what it is, but with green you could ramp into it. So, I mean, it's not terrible. I wouldn't say it's the best, but it's not terrible either. Okay, so Valduk, Keeper of the Flame, is a 2 and a red for legendary human shaman. It's a 3/2. So at the beginning of combat on your turn, for each aura and equipment attached to Valduk, Keeper of the Flame, create a 3/1 red elemental creature token with trample and haste. Wow. Exile those tokens at the beginning of the next end step. This I could see as being almost like a put into a Cheerios build in Modern. Yeah, I could see this like being a pretty, like, this could be a really interesting card. And the reason why I say this is because this is kind of a unique ability. It's kind of narrow, but there's not other cards that really do things like this. And so it's kind of a cool card that you might be able to build around, like to make a new type of deck. So I actually really like this. $1.46, I think people are kind of underestimating it. It's a common. Yeah, especially if you got like really cheap equipments or whatever, you can put it on this guy and then have something like, man, if you combine this with oh, what's that red god's name? Damn. Okay, whatever the red god is, whenever a creature enters the battlefield, does 2 damage to your target opponent, and then you combine this with, you combine this with like some 0 mana artifacts, man, this guy would be a killer. All right, so anyways, it'd be an interesting deck maybe to kind of build around that. So anyways, Squee the Immortal. Okay, so 2 and 2, or 1 and 2 red for a 2/1 legendary goblin. You may cast Squee the Immortal from your graveyard or from exile. Oh, that's kind of strange because they are breaking their rules here, right? Because usually you can't play anything from exile, right? Like, so that, like in Magic, like, yeah, you can get stuff back from the graveyard, but usually exile is just gone. So this means though that like you can, like, if he dies, you just bring him back. Basically is like a red Gravecrawler, right? But a little more expensive, of course. But also, like, if someone Path to Exiles him, you can just bring him back again. Like, there's just almost no way to get rid of this guy. And I wonder, actually. Okay, so we have something like Oblivion Ring. So when it enters the battlefield, exile another target non-land permanent. So if someone even Oblivion Rings this guy, right, he's in exile, you could just cast him back again. So this is basically almost an unremovable creature. Great value, I'd say. Like for 3, for a 2/1 for 3, you can use it in a chump block, and anytime you have extra mana, you can just keep getting it out. Yeah, I mean, the only limiting thing is it's legendary, so you can't have like a ton of them. Like, but yeah, basically you just can't get rid of this guy. It's going to be extremely difficult. I don't know how you would get rid of this guy at all. So, okay, anyway, Siege Gang Commander. I feel like this is a reprint, but I could be wrong. When Siege Gang Commander enters the battlefield, create 3 1/1 red goblin creature tokens and sacrifice a goblin, deals 2 damage to any target. Okay, so that's pretty good card, but I mean, it's pretty narrow and has to you have to, again, it has to fit into a very specific deck. Rona, Disciple of Gix. Gix? Is 1 a blue and a black for a 2/2 legendary human artificer. When Rona, Disciple of Gix, enters the battlefield, you may exile target historic card from your graveyard. Alright, so, okay, so any historic card, so any artifact, legendary, or saga, or any artifacts, legendaries, or sagas. You may cast non-land cards exiled with Rona. Right, so wow, you can just cast them. So, and then for 4 mana and tap, you can exile a card from the top of your library and then just cast it. So that's actually pretty powerful. It's almost like a slower Snapcaster in a way, right? So where you just keep exiling cards, and if you have a way to protect her, definitely in the long run, I could see this being like very valuable. Maybe even really good as a commander. Like, this could be really good as a build around commander, where you're just constantly bringing stuff back and exiling stuff and then bringing it back. So I mean, could be really strong. So I think so anyways. It's cheap to get out. I like this card. I like all these cards. They're all pretty good. So Chainer's Torment, 3 and a black for a saga. I love the art. The saga arts are just so good. Right, so at 1 and 2, the Chainer's Torment deals 2 damage to each opponent, and you gain 2 life. That's going to be great in multiplayer. Create an XX Black Nightmare Horror Creature token, where X is half your life total. Rounded up, it deals X damage to you. Oh. Okay, so if you have 20 life, you get 10. You get a 10/10, but it does 10 damage to you. Okay, but you also got 2 life here and here, so, well, yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, black doesn't care about its life total. It treats it as a resource, so, but man, losing half your life is pretty tough. I'd almost want to put this into a donate deck where I'd get like the 1 and 2 and then give it to my opponent, and then just remove that creature, especially because like there's so much easy removal, like in different formats, like modern anyways. This I don't think would be playable in modern, but in standard might be okay. So alright, Icy Manipulator, 4 mana for artifact, 1 and tap target artifact, creature, or land. Okay, so it could be just a way to keep everyone off an important creature or something like that. It's not a first pick in draft or anything like that, but I don't know. It's just okay. Okay, History of Benalia. So History of Benalia is a 1 and 2 whites for a saga. Okay, so create a 2/2 white knight creature token with vigilance, and at the third one, then knights you control get +2/+1 till end of turn. So that's pretty good. Like for 3 mana, you get a 2/2 and then a 2/2, and then they become 4 3s. That's really sweet. The artwork on it is really sweet. I want to Photoshop my face in there, right? But all right. Anyways, I can see why it's 1088. This is like a very, very good card, right? Demon Lord Belzenok. Okay, so that's a really cool name. It's funny because like you always feel like demon lords have to have like, evil creatures should have like names like that, like with lots of K's and stuff like that. It'd be funny if the name was like, something that didn't sound like pretty menacing. Like his name was like Gary or something like that. I mean, why couldn't there be like Demon Lord Gary? It just doesn't sound right. But I mean, there's nothing saying that like, Demon Lords have to have weird names like this. But all right. Anyways, 4 mana, black and black for a 6/6 flying trample. Okay, well that's pretty much a finisher. When Demon Lord Belzenok enters the Battlefield, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card, then put that card into your hand. If the card's converted mana cost is 4 or greater, repeat this process. Demon Lord Belzenok deals 1 damage to you for each card put into your hand this way. Pfft, okay, whatever. Like, you're not going to really care, right? Like, you're getting a 6/6 flying with trample and you're drawing cards, and like black's not going to care to pay 1 life to get extra cards. So, you know, that's pretty good. Well, obviously, that's like a finisher right there. Okay, I'm not sure if I've gone through Phyrexian Scriptures or not. Let's go through it anyway. So 2 mana and 2 black for a Saga. Put a +1/+1 counter on up to 1 target creature. That creature becomes an artifact in addition to other types. Okay, destroy all non-artifact creatures, so you can get an asymmetric board wipe out of this, and then exile all cards from opponents' graveyards. Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, Jaya Ballard, so 2 and 3 red, so a little narrow. You almost have to play in mono red for her, but her +1 is add 3 mana, spend this mana only to cast instants or sorcery spells. Okay, okay, sure, I get it. My only problem is that this ability can only be activated at sorcery speed anyways, so I mean, great, but I guess they want to be able to just say that you can't use it to cast creatures and stuff like that. So, okay, discard up to 3 cards, then draw that many cards. All right, sure. You get an emblem. The only problem is that for red, like at turn 5 when you're playing Jaya Ballard, are you going to have 3 cards to discard? Right? Like, I guess you don't have to discard all 3, right? You could discard 2 or whatever, but it just seems unlikely that like red usually doesn't have like 3 cards sitting in their hand on turn 6, right, or turn 5. So okay, you get an emblem with you may cast instants or sorcery cards from your graveyard. If a card cast this way be put into your graveyard, exile it. So basically it's basically allows you to cast all your sorceries back. Yeah, I mean, it's 3 turns to get her up to 8, and then ultimate, and then you can just start pounding face with it. But that's the problem with red is I found that the problem with this card is that red in general wants to play fast, but this seems to want to play slow. So I'm not sure how good Jaya Ballard is. People are obviously betting on the fact that it's going to be really good, 854 each. It's cool, and people are complaining that she's an old lady in the picture. Like old ladies can't be badass. I mean, you know, like anybody's that had a Chinese grandma knows that like old ladies can kick ass. So anyways, Jaya Ballard looks okay. I mean, I'm not sure what to think of it. Could be really great, could be just meh. But okay, Mox Amber, add 1 mana of any color among legendary creatures and planeswalkers you control. That's pretty much a must include in Commander now. Add 1 mana of any color among legendary creatures and planeswalkers you control. So basically, you can tap this and get any color as long as your commander is out, right? So yeah, that's pretty sweet. Okay, the Weatherlight, sweet. So a 4 mana vehicle, 4/5 flyer, crew 3. Whenever Weatherlight deals combat damage to a player, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal a historic card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in random order. Okay, yeah, so you basically get to scry, not even scry, just dig for 5 and draw a card, right? So that's super powerful. This is going to be, I think, a very good card. Joyra, Weatherlight Captain. She's not of the, well, I guess she's still at the G2, of course. Whenever you cast a historic spell, draw a card. Pfft. Okay. Okay, great. I wonder if this is going to go into some sort of legendary storm deck or something like that. That would just be a killer. But 2 a blue and a red for a 3/3 with this ability, basically giving you like ridiculous card advantage, is pretty good. Like, okay, so Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, 3 white and blue. So draw a card at the beginning of the next end step, untap 2 lands. Okay. Okay, sure. Put target non-land permanent onto its owner's library, in 3rd from the top. Ugh. Okay, and then you get an emblem. Whenever you draw a card, exile target permanent and opponent controls. Whenever you draw a card, yeah. So basically, this guy is a version of Venser, right? Like very similar to what Venser does too. So I mean, it's pretty good. Like I like it. I'm not sure if I like this one better or Venser. Just drawing a card. Um, yeah, I like it. I like it. I think Teferi is going to be, you have to build around it, but definitely will be a strong card, right? So not only do you get to draw a card, but you get to also untap 2 lands. So you could you could be out of cards. You draw a card. It could be a counter spell, and it could be protecting you for the next turn. Then you untap 2 lands, and that could give you the mana to cast it. So, all right, Fall of Thran. 1, destroy all. It's 5 mana and 5 and a blue for White Saga. Destroy all lands, and then 2 and 3. Each player returns 2 land cards from the graveyard to the battlefield. This one could be really good. Again, it just has to be a certain build around card. It's not something I would pick immediately. I like the artwork on it. It just seems like you have to be very specific in why you would cast this. So, okay, Urza's Ruinous Blast. Okay, 4 and a white for a legendary sorcery. Exile all non-land permanents that aren't legendary. So basically, anything that's not legendary goes. So if you have everything legendary, then, well, then you get to keep everything legendary. So I'm not sure if I'd pick this in draft. In this set, I probably would, because there's just so much legendary stuff. But I don't know, like, it's not like a holy crap type thing to me, but it's okay. Karn's Temporal Sundering. Love the artwork on this too. Okay, so 4 and 2 blue for legendary sorcery. Target player takes an extra turn after this one. So basically a time warp. Return up to 1 target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. Exile Karn's Temporal Sundering. Okay. So basically you take an extra turn, return permanent to its owner's hand. Okay, sure. The Mirari Conjecture. Man, can I tell you, Wizards of the Coast, I love the Saga artwork. Like, this vertical format is really cool, right? Like, almost all of them have like really great art. Okay, so 4 and a blue for Saga. Number 1, return target instant card from your graveyard to your hand. Great. Number 2, return target sorcery card. Great. Okay, 3, until end of turn, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, copy it. You may choose new targets for the copy. Okay, so this is, like, consider that you're going to get this out on 5, right? So that means on turn 5 you can return an instant. Turn 6 you can return a sorcery. Turn 7 you could have potentially up to 7 mana, right? And basically just cast the crap out of everything. So I don't know. It's expensive. Like, at 5 mana, like, I'm not sure if you'll be living that long, depending on how fast the format ends up being. But that's pretty powerful. Okay, we talked about Zahid before already. Okay, 2 and a red for the first eruption. Okay, so 1 mana. First eruption deals 1 damage to each creature without flying. That's kind of weird. You'd think you'd do 2 damage then to everything with flying. Look at the picture. There's like missiles and like flaming comets and stuff coming out of this thing. I know they're not comets, but like flaming boulders and lava everywhere. If you were flying there, I don't think that you would be able to fly over that. Right, so I think it should do 1 damage to each creature without flying and 2 damage to every creature with flying. Okay, so number 2, add 2 red. Okay, and then sacrifice a mountain. If you do, the first eruption deals 3 damage to each creature. Okay, so that could end up being a board wipe for 3. That's pretty sweet. Steelleaf Champion, we already talked. Fire Song and Sunspeaker talked about. Board the Weatherlight. 2 mana for a sorcery. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal a historic card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library. Okay, so that's basically scry 5 and draw 1, right? These cards, the cards that do this, could end up being totally abused. So look at yeah, you could whiff on it, but look at the top 5 cards and then just pick a historic card from it. So any artifact, legendary, or saga, and just put it into your hand. That could... I'm not sure how these are going to work, right? Like, there's other ones where there's basically like scry 3, draw a card, or something like that. Those cards are all like banned, right? So I don't know. I'm not sure how this is going to work. Now, this one is a lot more narrow. It has to be a legendary, an artifact, or a saga. So, it's easier to whiff on this, but still, could be pretty, like, it could be end up like in the right deck. This could be totally abused. Danitha Capuchin Paragon. No, Danitha Capuchin, comma, Paragon. Okay, not Capuchin Paragon. Okay, so she's a human knight, 2 and a white for a 2/2, first strike, vigilance, lifelink. Alright. Auras and equipment spells you cost 1 less to cast. Done. So that's great. You know, I think that's very strong, especially depending on whatever might go into this. Like, I want to see what other equipment there is to support this. I hope that there's good equipment in this deck, because otherwise that's a stupid ability, right? But auras, I don't really know if I've seen many auras, right? So I'm hoping that, yeah, I don't see any auras at all. So, all right. So if there's no auras or equipment, Wizards, you suck. Okay, but this card, can be really good. Okay, we talked about Knight of Grace in the other video. Triumph of Gerard. For a 2-mana saga, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control with the greatest power. Okay, target creature you control with the greatest power gains flying, first strike, and lifelink till end of turn. That's totally pickable, right? Maybe not a first pick, but definitely pickable in, like, you basically pump up your creature, and then just attack, and you get first strike, flying, lifelink. You know, that's definitely a nice pick. Okay, so Time of Ice. Alright, so untap 3 and a blue, tap target creature an opponent controls. It doesn't untap during its controller's untap step for as long as you control Time of Ice. Return all tapped creatures to their owner's hand. Okay, yeah, this could be brutal. So on the first turn it comes out, you tap a target creature its opponent controls, it doesn't untap. Second turn, okay, so the first creature didn't untap, the second creature is getting tapped. Okay, and then your opponent goes, okay, and then I guess the first creature would have untapped now, and then return all tapped creatures. So if you have a way to necessarily tap creatures, like, where is it here? Up here, right? Then that could be definitely a way to just kind of really hurt your opponent. Okay, so Wizard's Retort is basically a counter spell. So 1 and 2 blue, this spell costs 1 less to cast if you control a wizard, counter target spell. So, okay, every blue deck is going to have wizards in it, right? Basically, this is counter spell, right? So that's going to be harsh. This is going to go into mono blue fairies, right, for sure, right? Because they're all like Vendilion Click and all those other clicks are all like wizards, right? I'm pretty sure Spellstarter Sprite and those guys are wizards as well. So you're almost always going to have a wizard, and then you got a 2-mana counter spell. So, man, that's I think this is going to be a very powerful card. Definitely in this set, but also in Modern as well. So I think Wizard's Retort will be like one to keep your eye on. 99 cents right now. I'd probably pick up as many as I can find. Alright, so Knight of Malice. I believe I talked about this. Alright, so 1-mana 2/2 with first strike, already good. Right, so Hexproof from white, sure. Knight of Malice gets +1/+0 as long as any player controls a white permanent. Yeah, it's already, I mean, good 2/2 for 2 with first strike, already a good card. Okay, Flame of Keld, 2-mana saga. Discard your hand. Okay. 1/2, draw 2 cards. Okay. If a red source we control would deal damage to a permanent or player this turn, it deals that much damage +2 to that permanent or player instead. I'm not sure if discarding your hand is necessarily the best way to go with this. I guess the thing is, you could do this later on in the game when you're empty-handed anyways. So discard your hand when you have nothing in your hand, then great. And this is what I mean is that red is pretty fast. So like later by turn 3, 4, 5, you might be empty-handed, and so you don't care about discarding your hand, right? And then drawing 2 cards, okay, that's great. And then red source you control would deal damage to a permanent or a player this turn. Yeah, I mean, so this could be okay. Just discarding your hand just really sucks. This is not an early game card. So, okay. Wizard's Lightning costs 2 less to cast if you control a wizard, so it's an extra lightning bolt. Okay, Wizard's Lightning deals 3 damage. Yeah, it's an extra lightning bolt, but only for wizards, right? So this would definitely go into a wizard's tribal deck. Man, that could just be really, like in modern, I'm not sure. Like you could potentially build something that's really, really powerful here, especially because essentially you would get like, you know, as long as you have a ton of wizards, you get like, you can have like basically 8 lightning bolts in your deck. I'm like, ugh, that's pretty harsh. Okay, Arvid the Curse is 3 mana, white and black for the 3/3 legendary vampire knight with death touch and lifelink. Other legendary creatures you control get +2/+2, so he's a lord too. A pretty good one. 5 mana is not bad for a 3/3 death touch lifelink. I'd say I like this card. He's not necessarily the best one ever. He's not game breaking, but yeah, I'd say it's pretty good. You know, yeah, I like it. So, Raf Capuchin, Ship's Mage. Okay, so 2, a white and a blue with flash, or for a 3/3 with flash and flying, you may cast historic spells as though they had flash. Great. So any legendary saga or artifact can be cast as if they had flash. That could be okay in the right deck. You know, and he has flash as well. So I mean, yeah, I mean, I like it. It looks kind of like Venser there, but I mean, it's probably just the uniform. Okay, Slimefoot the Stowaway. Okay, so 1, a black and a green for legendary fungus, a 2/3. Whenever a sapperling you control dies, Slimefoot the Stowaway deals 1 damage to each opponent and you gain 1 life. So 4 mana, create a 1/1 green sapperling creature. There's kind of a niche group out there that loves sapperlings, and this would almost certainly be like a must-have in that sapperling type decks. I like it. I think it's kind of a neat build around. I don't see it as like ridiculously powerful, but if you have a way to make like tons of sapperlings, then you know that's a great card. So I like it. Tiana, Ship's Caretaker. Okay, looks kind of like Fräulein Maria. Okay, but it's okay, an angelic Fräulein Maria, and man, they made an angel into the ship's caretaker. Like, I hope they don't mean like the janitor, right? So, anyways, 3, a red and a white. Like, how powerful are these people when an angel is like the caretaker of the ship, right? Like, seriously, right? Anyways. For a 3/3 with flying and first strike, whenever an aura or equipment you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, you may return that card to its owner's hand at the beginning of the next end step. Okay, that's really good. Okay, that could maybe go into that modern Sramos or Cheerios deck. But let's see, we talked about this Void one. I don't want to cover the ones that haven't been totally spoiled yet. Sarah Disciple, pretty sure I talked about. Academy Drake. Homerid Explorer. Okay, so Homerid Explorer enters the battlefield, tap target. Hang on. So it's a 3 and a blue for a 3/3. Okay. When Homerid Explorer enters the battlefield, target player puts the top 4 cards of their library into the graveyard. Okay, sure. I mean, it's all right. I mean, I don't know. This card doesn't really. I'm not jumping out of my seat being like, woohoo, this card just seems like kind of meh. Like, it's better than Homerid, I guess. Homerid, this guy, who's one of the worst cards ever made in Magic, so, I mean, can't complain too much. But, yeah, this looks pretty awful. Not awful, but just, meh. Like, don't care. So 2 blue, sorry, Merfolk Trickster, 2 blue for a 2/2 with flash. That's pretty good. When Merfolk Trickster enters the battlefield, tap target creature an opponent controls. It loses all abilities. Now that card is actually pretty sweet, right? So this is basically like Pestermite, right? So you can flash them in, and your opponent's untaps after their opponent's untap phase, and then just tap one of their creatures, and then you got a 2/2 on the battlefield, right? So I mean, that's actually a decent card. Yeah, a nice little trick that you can buy yourself an extra turn for. Okay, so Cabal Evangel, 2, and basically it's a black bear. 1 and a black for a 2/2. Okay, great. Cabal Paladin, 3 and a black for a 4/2 human knight. Whenever you cast a historic spell, Cabal Paladin deals 2 damage to each opponent. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's alright. I mean, you get a 4/2, and if you get at least 1 artifact, you know, then you get 2 damage to your opponent. I mean, yeah, that's pretty sweet. Caligos Skin Witch, 2 mana, so 1 and a black for a 1/3 That's a human wizard. When Caligo Skin Witch enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, each opponent discards 2 cards. Now the kicker is 4. I've noticed so far in this set, and I've only seen like a few cards, the kicker cost is very expensive, right? Like kicker 4 is like basically like you got to cast this for 6 mana, and black doesn't really have any mana acceleration. So I mean, like, are you like, is each opponent going to have 2 cards to discard on turn 6? Right? So I don't know. Like, I don't really like this card. Alright, Vicious Offering. Interesting artwork. Okay, so 1 in a black for target creature gets -2/-2 till end of turn. Okay, so just a simple removal spell. If it was kicked, that creature gets -5/-5. So sacrifice a creature, and it's an instant. So what you could do, I like this actually, because what you could do with it is block with one of your tokens, and then cast this, sacrifice the same token, and then destroy the creature that's blocking, or destroy another creature. So I mean, this is actually, I think it's a good card. I would not first pick it, but it would be one I'd consider because it's a good form of removal. Right, so talked about Keldon Overseer. Is there any other new Atlanta War else? Sapling. Guardians of Koilos. So 5 mana 4/4. I think I did talk about this one. You may return another historic permanent you control to its owner's hand. It all depends if you have anything good with the ETB. And it says you may, so you don't have to. 5 mana 4/4. It's okay, especially with artifacts. Power Stone Shard. 3 mana artifact. Right, so just add a colorless for each artifact you control named Power Stone Shard. Alright, so that's pretty good. Once you get more of them out, they just create more and more mana for you. Okay, and so here we have like some of the artifact stuff that's going to be pretty nice. And Karn, of course, but he has not been totally spoiled yet, so I won't reveal that yet. Yeah, so decent looking equipment here. So, and I think that's really it. These are the Planeswalker decks cards. Usually, I'm not really going to cover these. These are usually pretty terrible. Like usually what they are is like inferior versions of the other cards that are going to be there. So I'm not overly excited about these. I would almost never buy them because they're definitely just inferior versions of the actual cards. The only good thing is that they're cheaper, you know, but like if you consider like Meandering River, it creates a blue and a white but it comes into the battlefield tapped, right? But oh, I guess it's off color too, right? So like there's no other blue-white one here, but you know, still like all of these come into the battlefield untapped, or they come in untapped as long as you control like one of their 2 color, like a basic land of these. I actually like these cards. This isn't really a spoiler because these cards are actually they're all reprints, but I actually really like these cards. Okay, they come where you come in tapped unless you control a mountain or a plains or a forest or whatever, right? Because in a lot of the decks I build anyways, you almost always control a mountain or a plains, and so like, or one of the other cards, and so like this card is a cheaper version of, you know, a fetch land or a untapped land, and almost always comes in untapped. So I mean, I like these cards. Anyways, that's it for the Dominaria spoilers. I'm caught up, and it's been a long, like, sorry the video is so long. Let me know what you think. Right, like, I mean, there are some really great cards here. Some of them are obviously bombs, right? Like, if you drop a Shalai, Voice of Plenty, right, assuming you still have, like, you know, you're not empty with an empty board, I mean, like, you're pretty much going to win. Like, that's a ridiculously strong card, right? There's some of them that are really, really great. Other ones are interesting because they're good build around ones, and other ones are, you know, just not that great. You know, so let me know, what's your favorite in the set so far. Do you disagree with anything I said? I mean, are there any ones that are like, I don't think there's any that are just awful, right? Like there's nothing here that I would, you know, nominate for worst cards ever, but you know, but there's some I think that, you know, that are like, all of them can be built around. I think it just depends on what else is in the set. So anyways, that's it for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. To join an amazing Magic the Gathering community, check out kitchentablemtg.com.